Hi, my name is Darren Hood. I am a senior learning experience designer with the Hub at Michigan State University, and I'd like to talk to you today about seizing the moment, the importance of what I call virtual office hours, or VOH for short. Before we get into the bulk of the content, I'd like to just run over a few things and just sort of introduce myself to you. I have over 30 years of experience in training and education. I started out in my career by getting several certifications through Langevin Learning, including a master trainer certification. I spent some time on the advisory board for Captivate. Some of you might be familiar with that application, which is currently in the Adobe suite of products. It used to be with Macromedia, and Adobe inherited it when the two companies merged. But I'm basically in that application. So if you're using it today, you're still tapping into some things that I had a hand in personally. Let you know you're a little closer to me than you thought, possibly. I have a master's in information management from Syracuse University. I have a master's in user experience design from Kent State University, where I happen to serve as an adjunct instructor. Been teaching there now for 5 years, and it really gives me a lot of the content that I'm going to be sharing with you today, my recommendations. I'm currently pursuing a PhD in education leadership from North Central University. 4 classes away, yay, from, from starting my dissertation. I also have a grad certification in educational technology from Michigan State University. So that's where you see the school icons there. On the personal side, quickly, I love cats. My wife, that's my beautiful wife there, Angela. My wife and I have 4 cats. That's Rocky and the picture that showed up in the Michigan Humane Society calendar a few years ago. I love photography. That's something I do in my spare time. And I am a former PBA member. Yes, I can tend to be pretty good when it comes to bowling. Now, why are these things important? You're going to see that toward the end of the presentation, but let's get into the main part of what it is that we want to talk to you about on today. So, online learning. There are some things that I want to make sure that we're clear on, and just without getting into a lot of the detail about the history of online learning, let's just look at a few key factoids. It was introduced in 1982 to 1984. In 94, the first online courses were said to have been offered through what was called Cal Campus by an organization on the West Coast. First ones to actually do it, that's their claim to fame. In 2002, MIT began offering lectures and courses online. This was great, a great milestone when it comes to online courses. In 2009, online student population increased by 187%. Online learning boomed. If it wasn't for online learning, I would not have all my degrees. They were all obtained online. So something that even before I started teaching, I was engaged in a very broad manner. 5.5 million learners. That is huge. And the number is even greater today. It's a little closer to 7 million today. In 2020, however, this is when things really shifted. And this is where we're going to start heading towards the main point I want to get across to you on today. Online experiences were thrust to the forefront because of COVID. Very tragic time. We're still in it, basically. But face-to-face instruction at the university level was something that really had to go by the wayside to open the door for online learning. Well, there's a few issues associated with this. So learning shifted from in-person to online. Many learners found the transition challenging, and a lot of them even found it to be undesirable. A lot of people were not happy with their online learning experiences. The limits of many educators were also tested. There were a lot of instructors that were not familiar with teaching online. They weren't comfortable with it, but yet they're being thrust into this arena, and a lot of them trying to do their best. We totally understand it, but we're just citing the facts. People simply weren't ready. If we could sum it up, that's the statement that we would have to rest with. This basically became volatile space. And what I have here that I want to share with you is 4 verbatims that I gathered just doing some random research and checking to see what were people saying, what were they talking about, what was on the minds of the learners, and to make sure that we put together a very sound learning experience, we need to understand what's on the mind of the learners and then be ready to respond in a proper way to make things optimal. One person said that they were billed over $1,000 for a course, but they felt that they were teaching themselves. Not optimal. Another person said, I must admit that these are my first online courses, but I expected a lot more interaction with the professors. So here we have a case where someone was not really having expectations set for them, but this is just what they thought was going to happen. So that's a mental model. That's what we call it in experience design spaces, that this is what was on the mind of the person that was paying to partake of this course, that they were paying and expecting a learning experience and expecting things to happen in a certain way. When they looked at it from a granular perspective, didn't shake out that way. Disappointed, to say the least. Another person said, the level of faculty interaction has been, in my experience, mostly non-existent. Interaction levels were not what this person wanted or expected them to be. Another person said, no one wants to hear someone drone on while the PowerPoint slides automatically advance. Most would rather just read a transcript on the topic and be done with it instead. So another unpleasant experience, starting to head down the path of annoyance, if you will. This is not what we want the students to experience. This is not how we want them to feel. Dominant concerns, if I could take those things and other things that I read, other data that I've been fortunate enough to see in attempting to get inside the heads of the learners, I would sum them up with these 4 items here. Many students, when it comes to online learning, they feel abandoned. Many feel alone, and they feel like they're left to fend for themselves. Again, not optimal, not desirable, not pleasant, not delightful. Many of them talked about, as you saw in a couple of the examples that I share with you, they felt that their experiences lacked interaction. And then lastly, engagement simply was not optimized. So we've got some opportunities. We've got some facts. We have some scenarios. We have some understanding. And a lot of times when you have things like this that come up, just look at it as an opportunity. You don't want to take it and put your head down. You don't want to feel sorry for yourself. You don't want to go around and play blame games. Let's just look at the opportunities. And so a lot of people, when they see these things, they say, okay, I hear you. These are opportunities. Well, what can and what should I do? I've been forced to teach online. I'm not happy about teaching online. I've never really had any training. Some people feel like that. Some educators feel, hey, when is somebody going to show me a better way to do this thing? And that's sort of what we're getting at today, at least to some extent, to provide some ideas. Now, when it comes to teaching online, there are what we refer to as best practices. There are some things that a lot of experts say need to be done in order to optimize that online experience. Very quickly, 5 things based on information that we have from psychologytoday.com and from Harvard EDU. Be tangible. In other words, be visible. Make sure that you have a presence. Number 2, establish a strong and consistent presence. That's very important. Schedule weekly sessions. Make it a point to be in front of students regularly. Engage directly with them. Establish a course-based community. And when I look at these 5 things that experts have said you need to do from a best practices perspective as it pertains to the online experience, this is where I like to introduce to some, prescribe and recommend to others, the importance of having virtual office hours. We need to seize the moment that is before us with this opportunity and trying to make online experiences better. And here are the things that I recommend that you do. Set expectations. Make sure that everybody knows how the course is going to be structured, how it's going to function, and how these VOH sessions, as I call them for short, will come into play. Make sure that you meet regularly. It could be weekly, you could do it twice a week, but meet regularly. Something I like to do in my sessions when I'm teaching is to allow learners to set the tempo. We come together for the sessions, and I start off each session by letting the learners present topics and questions, let them control what's going on. And that's a way to make that learning more active. Field topic requests and questions from the learners. And not only, as I mentioned, the learners can set the tempo, but in addition to that, what if you have some students who can't make it? Especially when it comes to online learning, I'm in the Eastern time zone. Some of my students could be international. Some of my students could be on the West Coast. They could be in Mountain Time. They just in a different time zone where the time that we meet may not be convenient for everyone. So one of the things that I do is I solicit questions and topics from students that might not be present. I make sure that this is available to them, that they're aware of it, and they can send these topics and questions, and I make sure to share them, read them off, and then address them during the course of the VOH sessions. This way, they can have a presence. They see that I'm addressing their need. I'm going to also, I mean, someone else probably has the same question when you really think about it. This happens pretty frequently. But this way, by fielding these topic requests and questions that other folks have, everybody is included. We're not alienating anybody. We're making sure that everybody feels that they have an established presence, that they're a part of what's taking place, that they have a sense of ownership with the content and with the direction that we're taking. This is really important. Make sure you include a thorough review of the course activities for the week, whether it's reading materials and providing some summaries, whether going over the assignment for the week. This is really critical. And that way people are able to see, what are we doing this week? They can look at or evaluate their understanding. Did I really understand what we were doing? Am I clear on these things? Was I proper? Was I correct in the direction I thought we were headed? Because a lot of times students are confused. Students they don't have the clarity that they really wanted. And so when you go over the course activities for the week, it allows people to assess or reassess their understanding, and then everybody can be clear. We can all be on the same page. Something that I like to stress is that it's important to be casual. Don't be stodgy. Don't be stiff. Don't Just be yourself. Be laid back. Laugh a bit. Uh, when we do this, we make things come across in a more humane manner. It helps establish uh, uh, a strong presence, and I'm there kind of presence, instead of having something being rehearsed or robotic. You don't want to come across as rehearsed or robotic. So be casual, be free, be ready to pivot on a moment when something comes up, a topic comes up that might not be something that you expected. I actually even ask my students, or I let them know, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about the discipline in general that we're covering, something that might not be in the course material, by all means, bring it up. Feel free. Ask the questions, and I'm going to be there to address them. And students have always expressed a tremendous appreciation for that kind of flexibility. So demonstrate empathy, and all of these things will do that. You want to make sure that students know that you care about them as students. They need to know that they're not a number. And when you take advantage of any opportunity to demonstrate empathy, that's going to come across really, really well with the students. When you're answering questions, make sure you do it in a thorough manner, and make sure you do it in an expert manner. That is really key. We did mention to be flexible. You want to make sure that you're flexible, that you're pivoting, that you got your head on the swivel, ready to deal with whatever comes before you. And then lastly, record the session and provide that session to everyone. Send out an email with the link to that session, a password also if necessary, but make sure that everybody's included, everybody's accounted for, and that community that we're trying to establish in the course. You can seal the deal by making sure that these recordings are available, accessible, that people can just take a look at them as is convenient for them. When we do all of these things, we are establishing a sound VOH practice. Students can then, you can help to address the anxieties that many people have. And this is one of the best things that we can do in establishing that community, that sense of community, again, for your students, and offsetting all of the issues that we're facing in the midst of having to deal with online teaching, especially when a lot of people are not comfortable, or a lot of people are simply not happy about the fact that they're in this position. I hope that this helps. And now it's time for Q&A.